Hi folks, how are you doing? Let us quickly review the games from the fifth round of the ACP Golden Classic tournament. We had Padre Jobava with white pieces against Almasi, and they played an Italian game, the gioco piano, bishop c4. Almasi wanted to go into the two knights defense, but this time Jobava plays slowly with d3 and c3. Now both players castled, and here, there are a couple of options. I think d6 with the idea play a6, bishop a7 is the most common, the most logical and very solid way to play this. But Almasi plays more aggressively. He plays d5 right away in one move, taking advantage of white's slightly passive c3 d3 and attacks in the center. Now white has this plan available: b4, bishop back, and b5, winning lots of space on the queen side. The bishop goes to a5, exchange on d5 and c4. White keeps winning space, pushing his pawns. The queen goes back, and bishop d2, attacking the knight. Black counterattacks on his own part, the knight on f3. Another possibility, for instance, if black just defends with b6, white could take on e5, but black gets some compensation. Bishop f6, the pin. Bishop takes, b takes, d4 could be played. Okay, some bad pawn structure here for black, and the pawn up for white, but black has the bishop pair, so it was a possibility. But e4 seems very precise, as now bishop takes and e takes here. Although white wins a pawn, black has the bishop pair to compensate it. He plays a6, trying to develop the rook. a4, keeping the space. Exchanges here. Queen d7. Black develops and controls this light square diagonal for whatever reason he could want to. And white goes for the piece trades here. Bishop c3 and rooks are exchanged here. Rook d8, attacking d3, queen g3 with the threat of checkmate, so f6, and now white is in time to protect his pawn. d4, bishop d6, queen to b3. There is the threat of play that is covered, check and win this bishop, of course, so queen f7 for instance. And finally this knight is developed to d2. Rook e8, queen goes to f3, putting some pressure on this pawn so that the bishop cannot leave its square sc8 starting square that easily. Queen g6, and anticipating black's move bishop c3 to defend the knight, so that after queen c2 white can move a move like c5, bishop back, and white is trying to exploit his 3 against 2 in this part of the board, in the queen side, his extra pawn, and so far has neutralized black's bishop pair very well. Queen a4, attacking at the same time d4, queen to c3 and c6. Takes, rook a1, this queen is somehow bad placed now, and white is getting in with his pieces, getting good squares. Bishop e6 and forcing the exchange here. Of course there is a fork, so black must take. C take d6. It may seem that these pawns are now weaker than before, but this is after all passed pawn. And in opposite color bishop position like this, black cannot defend dark squares, so dark squares could be important because white has this bishop to control them. Rook to a8, h3, king f7. Now we're going into the endgame where white is clearly trying to win the game. h6, queen e1, queen d5, queen b4, a little bit back and forth, rook a7, queen to b6, the rook must do something, so it goes to d7, bishop b4, protecting it, queen b5, queen c5, and there the queen were exchanged. So we have now a protected passed pawn on d6. So far it's well blockaded with the rook, but it's not that clear that black has enough to hold here. Rook b7, bishop d2, h5, rook goes into the 8th rank, bishop d8, d7, and rook to h8. Now after the check on the first rank, king h2, rook d1, bishop goes to e3, rook to d5, king g3, rook e5, rook d8. We're reaching a very interesting point after a couple of moves. We have this position after king f7, rook d8, king f7. It seems that white is winning another pawn on h5. This is a very interesting moment, and apparently this is what happens, but it is really a poisoned pawn. If rook takes, there is the check with the pawn, king can go down, but suddenly king g7, and this rook is kind of trapped because bishop e8 and the rook has nowhere to go. So this was a little trap in which Bahadur Jobava didn't fall, but it was quite an interesting. So after king f7, Jobava just didn't take it. It went to d8, king back to e6, now f4, and after f5 we've had 51 moves so far, and the game was adjourned in this promising position for Jobava, so it will be played out in another day, not sure exactly when, but the result of this game still to be seen. Seems white has a very promising position to win. Let's see the second game of the round. We have an Italian battle here. Sabino Brunello's white and Daniele Vocaturo's black. Both GMs very near of 2600. They are playing a King's Indian defense. Black castles. Now bishop g5, one of the tons of theoretical lines in the King's Indian defense. Vocaturo goes knight a6, knight f3, h6, bishop f4, and d5. Here d takes e5, and now the theoretical move is not to take but to make the intermediate knight h5, attacking the bishop, making it go back, and now recapture on e5. Queen c1, there is a threat to take on h6, so king h7, c6, h3, it was white's turn, now c6, stopping white knight from jumping to beautiful places, and g4, white goes aggressive on the king side, knight f4, bishop takes, e takes, and Brunello takes the pawn. Seems a little bit risky because black has the bishop pair, better kind of better pawn coordination here, and well, his king side, white's king side, seems a little bit weak, but white thought, Sabino Brunello thought it was worth it, so he takes it. Knight went to c5 and he castles. Very logical move here, a move I like a lot, is f5 by black, trying to open up lines immediately to use his bishop pair, his rook on the f file, and try to take advantage that the king's and the queen's position here may be a little bit unsafe. G takes, Brunello pushes his e-pawn. Now the knight is a good blockading piece here. Queen e3 and knight g5. After knight takes, the queens are exchanged. H takes, white still is up a pawn, but black still has his bishop pair. f4, g takes, and white gives the pawn back now to get some activity. Bishop takes and rook h4 check. After king g7, king f2. Obviously white is trying to bring the other rook to the g file. Now rook h8, rook g1 check, king f8. Pair of rooks are swept out of game. King e3, bishop e6, king f4. Now each side has its advantages. Black has the bishop pair, white has a much better king, more centralized, more active. King e7, bishop d3. This is the point in which against which white is going to play the weak f5 pawn. King f6, b3, bishop g7, knight e2. Couple of ways to attack the f5 pawn, either from d4 or g3. Rook h8, king protects, bishop f8, and now rook f1 attacking. Here f5, a check with the bishop, king g2, check with the rook, king f3, now rook h8 again, king g2 again, and now bishop e5. Rook f3, I mean black must be slightly better here at least, because he has the bishop pair. Rook g8 check, king f2, and bishop c7. After king f1 there is really not that much that white can do, just keep pressuring here, putting pressure here on f5, protect his h3 pawn. Bishop goes to c8, bishop c2, and king g5. Black gets in with his king, activates his king. Rook f2, rook h8, knight d4, putting lots of pressure on f5. Bishop g3 is attacking the rook, so it went to e2, f4, and bishop e4. Another game which was adjourned at this point, and it seems black has very good chances to win this game. Vocaturo made some progress here. It will be played out another day like the previous one. It seems that bishop takes h3 check is a very obvious first move, just being a pawn up, having bishop pair, and very unsafe enemy's king. So it seems black will win this game after when it's played out another day. And finally we got the game between Emil Sutovsky and Nepomniatchi here. In the last game of the round, remember Wesley So was having a day off today. d6, we have a Sicilian with bishop b5 check, the Moscow variation I think it's called. Knight d7, there are lots of chances for black here to put something in between, so knight d7, white castles, and now after knight gf6, d4 is what Sutovsky plays. C takes, the queen takes, g6, and white pushes his pawn to e5. D takes, here both captures with the queen and the knight I think are possible. A matter of taste or preparation or whatever, I guess. White took with the queen, so of course black cannot take it. The bishop is pinned, he keeps developing. Rook e1, putting pressure on e7 so that black cannot castle that easily. e6, and now queen d6, stopping black from castling. Well, black puts the queen in between, offering a queen exchange, which white accepts, and we go into this queenless middle game. King f8, bishop check on b4, king g8, knight c3. It seems black has very little space, not that much development, but really white isn't in the shape of taking advantage of this. a6, white just gives up his bishop pair and plays rook ad1, bishop to e8, knight e5 and b5. Now bishop e7, h6, f4, rook a7, attacking the bishop, so bishop takes. On f6 and knight e4. White has slightly more, a slight advantage of space here, but black has the bishop pair and, well, position which should be fairly equal. bishop back to e7, knight d6, king g7, c3, rook c7, playing slow chess so far. Now knight takes here, rook took, and white controls the d-file doubling rook here. g5, g3, and f6. The knight must go back. A check with the bishop, king up, pawns exchanged here, and bishop e3. Rook d7. Of course, the rooks are exchanged here, king g6, and rook d6. Well, black, it seems, could took here on f4, but white will probably take on a6, and after moves like this, all logical moves, everything is getting exchanged. That's why after rook d6, black rather improves his king's position. King f5 protects e6. Now knight check, and bishop takes here. Rook takes, rook g8 check. We're reaching a rook endgame in which I think black is slightly better because his king is more active, but nothing that much. I think this should be pretty equal. a4, rook f1 check, king e3, king g4, couple of exchanges here, and rook b4. Now this is slightly different. White is attacking here, but black's king is pretty active. Check, king back, rook h3. Black takes first on f4, h2 isn't going anywhere. Rook b4 check, king f5, c4. Black now, of course, takes here with checking here, king d2, c5. Black is, of course, in time to stop these pawns with his king. He goes to d5, rook c4, and king c6, b4. But of course, black is up a pawn and should have at least enough to not have any problems. Check, king d2, rook a3. Now we have an advantage for black. Another advantage for black. White king is cut up here from the game. Rook h4, king goes to b5, so a couple of pawns are exchanged here. Rook takes f6, rook defends here, king d3, and finally black takes the last white pawn. And now it is a matter of endgame theory to see if black will be able to get the Lucena position and somehow promote this pawn. Seems difficult because white's king is well placed in front of the enemy pawn. So let us see, king e2, king d5, but after rook h4 there is not much to do here. The rook just loses some tempo, and now it goes back and we have a fielder position, king d4, and after 60 moves Sutovsky and Nepomniatchi agreed this was a draw because we have a fielder position. White is going to check black king from behind and there is nothing it can do. So there it goes. We have two adjourned games here to be played on, and a draw in the fifth round of the ACP Golden Classic tournament. Thanks for watching.